A new Gallup poll says that 58% of your staff is not engaged. Let's talk about what that means and how to fix it moving forward.
This is The Rare Advisor, proud to be a part of the Advisor Advancement Network and home of a business model supercharged by recurring and repeatable events. Your host is Mike Walters, CEO of USA Financial. He is an investment advisor representative of and securities are offered through USA Financial Securities, member FINRA SIPC, a registered investment advisor.
Hey, not long ago, I talked with you about some articles in the Wall Street Journal. You might recall that graphic where it discussed the fact that if your coworkers are quiet quitting, here's what that means. Then that was followed up a few days later with the backlash against quiet quitting is getting louder. And now today we've got all kinds of new data to go through as we discuss the idea that quiet quitters are making up half of the U.S. workforce, according to a new Gallup poll. So this is really intriguing because we've talked about this in the past. Obviously, it's been a huge ramification or byproduct. I'll encourage you to turn it into a strategic byproduct of the pandemic, and that is the fact that hybrid has become the new norm. If you're talking white-collar business, over here you'll notice there's a graphic, and what it talks about is that the majority of businesses are hybrid. The next biggest chunk is in the office on site, and the smallest chunk is remote. It's very simple to say that in the past, office was the highest, then was hybrid, then was remote. In fact, maybe it was even office in the highest, then remote, then hybrid. I'm not quite sure about that, but I guarantee you office was in the high number one pole position. Today, it's hybrid, and it's hybrid by a long shot. Now, this is fueling all kinds of different things because you've heard about people not wanting to come back to work. Maybe you've had these issues in dealing with your staff because it is a real issue. Things are different than they used to be. And in some way, shape, or form, you have to embrace this because if you're constantly swimming against the current, the odds are you're eventually going to lose the traction. You're going to be pushed in a backwards motion. We at USA Financial went through that exact same process. It was not easy when the pandemic first hit and our staff was pushed out of the office rather unexpectedly. Our technology was not built specifically to support a 100% remote or 100% hybrid workforce. Now, by the time we got back into a certain degree and then got pushed out a second time, we were ready. Our tech team was on top of it. We had made all kinds of different adjustments. We were able to identify people's remote locations and ping them to make sure that they were up to our tech standards for all that we need to be able to accomplish with a remote or a hybrid team. And so now, like many companies, we've embraced the hybrid approach. But that doesn't mean there aren't challenges for all of us because, again, the Gallup poll is telling us that 32%, that's this line right here, they're telling us that 32% of employees are, quote, engaged with their job, with their career, with their employer. 18% are actively disengaged, means that that's the really hardcore quiet quitter that you're reading about right now. They are doing all they can not to be part of what's going on in your company. Now, maybe that's your fault as an employer, as a business owner. Maybe that's their fault as an unmotivated employee, or maybe the blame is somewhere in between. Doesn't really matter. The stat tells us 18% are actively disengaged. So that means 50% are, quote, not engaged. So over half, 68%, are below or lower than being engaged. They are not engaged or actively disengaged. Now, that's a problem from a business perspective, but it's a real problem for younger folks. If you're getting into the career path today, if you're coming out of college, if you're relatively new to the world of business and pursuing your long-term career goals, things have changed dramatically, and it's not easy for the young folks today. They tell us in this chart right here that the third most influential group for people or groups that individuals say represent a significant source of their community life. Number one is family and friends. Number two is people they share important interests with. Number three is the people they work with. but now they're very disconnected in many organizations with those people because they're hybrid, they're remote, they're not seeing each other the way they used to. So that work group is ranking higher than their neighbors. It's ranking higher than their church. It's ranking higher than a lot of other social components. The only ones beating it, family and friends, and then those who they share a direct or important interest in. And then number 3, like I said, is the employer. But get this. Seldom do I read things to you. I'm going to read this, though. These are some bullet points coming out of that Gallup poll that tells us 18% of the people are disengaged, 50% are not engaged, and only 32% are in fact engaged. The percentage of engaged employees under the age of 35 dropped by 6 percentage points from 2019 to 2022. And during that same time, the percentage of actively disengaged employees increased by 6 points. So that's 33% of the current number was the increase in there. Number 2, younger workers have dropped 10 or more points in the percentage who strongly agree that someone cares about them, someone encourages their development, and they have opportunities to learn and grow. So the philosophy or the feeling for younger folks is their opportunities are going by the wayside as their interaction with the office is dropping. Now, keep in mind, they might want the interaction in the office to drop. They might be promoting hybrid and remote, but in fact, it still is hurting them in a career perspective. Now, fully remote and hybrid young workers dropped 12 points in agreeing that someone encourages their development. So again, people are having a hard time relating, and people are having a hard time managing and learning how to manage in this new environment. And then it says the final point, disturbingly, less than 4 in 10 young remote or hybrid employees clearly know what is expected of them at work. So again, that one lies directly on the business owner, the leadership, and the managerial group. So what does all this mean? Well, what it means is you have to adapt. If you're allowing employees to work remote, you have to create connectability. You have to create community. Now, I'm not telling you we're absolutely perfect at this. We're continuing to learn as we go through this as well. But I will tell you, we are actively using Zoom and MS Teams. When people are together in the building, we'll still do video meetings so that those who aren't in the building are equally represented in the meetings. We're running approximately quarterly. We are running what I call an all-team day, or what we call an all-team day. We're bringing in all of our hybrids. We're bringing in all of our remotes, even from different parts of the country. We're bringing them in simply for camaraderie. Now, there is an element of business that often takes place. We'll usually run a large corporate group meeting that day. If there are projects that are going on, it gives them an opportunity to meet face-to-face and whiteboard and chalkboard things out if need be. But then we'll also do a lot to build community. We'll maybe have some games or some fun or a happy hour. We're serving a breakfast. We're serving a lunch that day. We're doing different things to get people connected, because we know that the people who used to be connected maybe aren't so much anymore. And the newer people have never even had the quality opportunity to connect in the first place. So we have to recreate that in different ways today than we did in the past. So this is a major trend. It's a major shift. You know, as they say, once something is stretched, it can never go back to its original shape. There are more people moving back into the office, but the majority, at least for now, are claiming to be permanently hybrid. That's never been the case before, and you need to be able to deal with it and manage appropriately.
This information is for licensed financial professionals only and is not intended for use in soliciting sales from the public. The views expressed represent the opinions of the presenter or their featured guest, not necessarily those of USA Financial or its affiliated subsidiaries. Industry references are generic and not intended to represent actions or beliefs of any individual or entity. Content is only presented to illustrate general principles, beliefs, or ideas and should not be construed as legal or regulatory advice. Trademark and copyright protected. USA Financial and Affiliates.